G'day legends, it's Mark here from North Oz, and in today's video we're going to be fixing one of the biggest problems that is wrong with my new 79 series Landcruiser. And guys, I cannot believe that Toyota let this car out of the factory with it. Let's get stuck into it, let's fix it. It's going to be a good one, let's do it. That's right guys, today we are finally getting rid of the raised factory intake. It is not a snorkel because it's broken up into many sections, which I will show you throughout the install. We'll make sure we make some time for that so you can see exactly why I went to replace the factory snorkel with this, which as you can see is one piece from the head all the way down to the airbox fitment there. Now there are two reasons why I purchased this snorkel in particular. The first reason is, and I did purchase this with my own money, this is not sponsored, and if any content is sponsored in the future, I will always let you guys know. I paid for this with my own money, it was $500. It's a TJM Airtec. Now, the reason why I purchased this is for two reasons. One, it's made in Australia, so I'm trying to get as much stuff on this vehicle. Well, not trying to just throw things on here willy-nilly, because obviously I'll run out of money pretty quick if I did that. But the things that do need to be replaced, replace them with made in Australia items, and this is made in Australia. So that's a big plus, that's a big positive. So where appropriate, Australian-made items are going on the 79 series Landcruiser. The second thing I like about this is the look. It doesn't look ridiculously aftermarket. As you can see, it looks pretty low-key. It's similar sort of thicknesses to the original air intake. The Safari R-Max looks fantastic, don't get me wrong, and a lot of the other snorkels look great, but they require so much cutting to be able to install on the 79 series, and I'm not a big fan of that. The less that I can chop and cut into this vehicle, the better. So there will always be the option to put the factory intake back on the vehicle if I wish. So that is the reasoning why I purchased this snorkel. And yeah, without further ado, I reckon let's get stuck into it, and we'll do a little bit of narration as we go through it, and I'll show you exactly why you might want to purchase this for your 79 series, because that factory intake has quite a fair few cons, which I'll show you throughout the install. So should only take about 45 minutes to install this. That's what it says by the instructions. So I reckon let's get stuck into it and see what we can find.
I started uninstalling the factory raised intake by removing the two bolts holding the upper snorkel bracket to the truck and the two lower fender bolts. The upper bolts and the rubber spacer will be reused in the new snorkel install. When removing the fender bolts, I ran into an issue as the intake didn't come away from the fender. However, there is a sneaky retaining clip that holds the intake in place. Slide the intake assembly towards the rear of the vehicle to unseat it from the clip, and the snorkel comes right off. The clip also needs to be removed, which was a bit of a challenge as it's held in with quite a bit of force, so I used a towel under my trim removal tool for leverage. Now we can start to see the design flaws of this intake, as there is an unsealed gap where the exterior section meets the inner fender section. Now Toyota used a tar-like glue to keep the intake in place and sealed in sections, so I used a cloth with methylated spirits to remove the glue from the paint. This worked for me, but this can thin the paint, so you might want to use a different method that is more paint friendly. Now let's have a good look at that factory intake system to point out some of the poor design elements.
Before we move on to the next part of today's video, guys, can I get you to do me a massive favor and click the subscribe button, and also like the video, because it does push it out to more like-minded people like ourselves. Thank you so much for everyone who's been joining the community. It's been so great. I love having your comments in the comments section. It inspires me as well, and I hope that some of the stuff that I do inspires you guys a little bit too, to help you guys, get out there and do stuff on your own cars as well. It's a great time. I love doing it. So I just want to thank you guys for supporting me, and let's get on with the video. So I think now is a good time to show you guys exactly why you might want to fit a snorkel to your 79. So you can see all the different sections that we've got here. So we've got the snorkel head here on the factory intake. Then you've got this section here. So that's that kind of mid section on the outside part of the snorkel. And you've got another section here. Now something that surprised me is if we come over to the vehicle, is that snorkel was not actually sealed against the body of the vehicle here. So that's a bit of a problem, because we're just kind of hoping that the air will make its way into this kind of little duct here. Now from here, the air travels into that little hole there and then attaches via a clamp. So that's another little section there via a clamp into the factory airbox. So what we're doing essentially here is that we're going to be cutting out all these extra little sections and having one big section that runs all the way from the top, going all the way through the body into the vehicle as well, because remember, this is all attached. This part here is going to be removed, and it's all attached to the new snorkel, and then will then be attached via a nice little clamp here. It's going to have a little bit of a hose just to make it a little bit more flexible to then join up onto the factory airbox.
A single bolt holding the intermediary pipe to the fender was then removed and the exterior plate was taken off. The clamp holding the internal section of the intermediary pipe to the airbox was also loosened for removal of the section. This was a time-consuming part of the process, but to help you remove it quickly and easily, let me explain to you how I did it.
This has to be the worst part of the install, which is this intermediate kind of hose. There's no instructions on how to actually get it out because it doesn't go that way and it doesn't go that way. So the only way to get it off is remove that clamp first, because it really doesn't like to be removed without it. So make sure you take that off first. And then once you've got it sitting in the vehicle like this and sitting in the fender well, it doesn't actually want to go either way. So what I did was I kind of pushed it down into the fender and then I flipped it around, and then I was able to then snake it out just past, I think it's a power steering fluid, just past that bottle there, stick the hand into that gap there, and then basically just push it straight into the engine bay. And that is the only way to get this thing out without having to remove a whole bunch of stuff. So I was very happy I got this out. Didn't take me too long in the end. Bit of a puzzle to solve. Don't mind those at all.
Included as part of the kit is a silicone hose joint with 2 clamps. To install the new snorkel, start by fitting the hose to the airbox and tightening the clamp around the airbox inlet. It's easy to tell when the joiner is on because a factory pipe has protruding plastic stoppers to indicate when to stop pushing in the joiner. Next, place the clamp over the snorkel size of the silicone hose and then fit the snorkel to the vehicle while sliding the airbox side of the snorkel into the silicone pipe. Once the snorkel is installed, be sure to come back and tighten the clamp. After screwing in the fender bolts finger tight to hold everything in place, I then turned my attention to the new supplied brackets and reinstalled the bolts and rubber spacer back onto the Landcruiser. 2 bolts hold the bracket to the vehicle and 2 more bolts hold the bracket to the upper part of the snorkel. After securing the upper bracket, I then went back and tightened the fender bolts using an Allen key. The bolt goes into the snorkel using a crusher washer and a washer to ensure a secure fit. The most satisfying part of the install is to finally fit the new snorkel head and tighten the clamp at the bottom of the snorkel head assembly. As far as installs go, this is probably one of the easiest modifications I've done yet, and it also serves a great purpose. Let's discuss my initial thoughts of the snorkel, and I'll leave you with a sound clip of the 79 Revving with the new snorkel attached.
Well guys, the new snorkel is in, and I have to say my first impressions are that it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it so far. For 500 bucks, I didn't have to modify the airbox like you have to do with the Safari R-Max. It's all pretty much just one piece, just slots straight in. You do get new hardware bolts for here, and also for the clamp, kind of like the bracket that holds the top part of the snorkel to the vehicle. So you do get a new bracket for that, but you're reusing a couple of bolts up there too. So, I mean, in terms of difficulty of install, it'll take you, if you use my tips, probably half an hour. I stuffed around a little bit trying to figure out a couple little bits and pieces here and there, and I was filming as well. So it did take me a couple hours to fully install the snorkel. Now, I must admit, when I first saw the head of the snorkel, I wasn't too convinced compared to the old one, because the old one kind of looks a little bit retro, but it is definitely growing on me. And the rendering that I did, so I did like a build plan video. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave a kind of little card at the end of this video for you to check out. But I actually did have that snorkel head on the vehicle for the rendering, and it is definitely growing on me, so I'm going to leave that there. But I would like your opinion on whether or not, when I'm hitting dusty tracks, whether or not it's worthwhile having some sort of dust protection on top of that, like a sock or something. Please let me know in the comment section what you guys run. I'd be interested to know. When I did the Cape trip, I just had an open snorkel head like that, and I didn't have any issues. Obviously replacing the air filter and stuff, regularly. That sort of stuff is always going to be on the cards when you have it open like that. But I would like your opinion for those people running a similar snorkel to me. So that's one of the concerns that I had. And I also kind of like as well the fact that they've got this kind of ridge, so it kind of collects water along the outside here. But there are also little holes there to let the water drain as well. So as I'm driving through the water, I don't think I'll have too many issues with water pooling in there. I actually did have an issue when I unfortunately I couldn't replicate it when I took the snorkel off, because all the water went all over the floor anyway once I tipped it upside down. the factory Snorkel had a lot of water in it. Like it was enough to like slosh it from side to side. So that's a little bit of a worry as well. I mean, like, yeah, I had the vehicle parked up in the rain for a little bit, so there probably would have been some sort of water getting into it. But I mean, yeah, I just don't see, why that would have happened on that Snorkel, because the Snorkel head's pretty well protected. So that was a little bit of a concern to me. So it'd be interesting to see if the same thing happens on this Snorkel here. I'm pretty confident it's got a pretty good shape for the top. It's kind of like angled as well, and there's also those drainage holes there too as well. So, I mean, there is drainage in the airbox as well. There's a little like kind of bung there as well, so that works out well. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of point that out to you guys to see if you have noticed the same thing. So if you guys have a stock Snorkel head, just keep an eye on that, because there could be a bit of water sloshing around in there, and if enough builds up in there, could be a problem. Anyway, something to keep an eye on. But I do like the look of the TJM. It was super easy to install. Like I said, it would take you probably half an hour if you use those tips trying to finagle that intermediate sort of tube thing there out. So yeah, I hope that saves you a little bit of hassle and can speed up the install for you guys. I can't speak about the performance because I obviously need to test it and all that sort of things off road. So that will be a long-term review that I will make for you guys. But at the moment, it's pretty much just the install for now. So I will be testing it over the coming days, weeks, months, and also over the next camping trips that we will be doing as well, and also the big camping trips that we've got coming up this year, which I'm very excited to share with you. So guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you for joining me. I hope it gives you some ideas for your own builds, and I will see you very shortly in the next video. Thanks for watching.